Thank you for joining Wars of the Roses as we continue with part 17 of Dr. R. Swinburne Clymer's Ancient Mystic Oriental Masonry. 277. The circumambulation among the pagan nations referred to the great doctrine of Sabaism or sun worship. Freemasonry alone has preserved the primitive meaning, which was a symbolic allusion to the sun as the source of physical light and the most wonderful work of the grand architect of the universe. The lodge represents the world, and the three principal officers represent the sun in her principal positions: at rising, at meridian, and at sunset. The circumambulation therefore alludes to the apparent course of the solar orb through these points around the world. 278. In the rite of circumambulation, we find another ceremony borrowed from the ancient Freemasonry that was practiced in the mysteries. In ancient Greece, when the priests were engaged in the rite of sacrifice, they and the people always walked 3 times round the altar while singing a sacred hymn. In making this procession, great care was taken to move in imitation of the course of the sun. For this purpose they commenced at the east, and passing on by the way of the south to the west, and thence by the north, then they arrived at the east again. By this means, as it will be observed, the right hand was always nearest the altar. 279. Among the Romans, the ceremony of circumambulation was always used in the rites of sacrifice, of expiation, of purification. Thus Virgil describes Coriolanus as purifying his companions at the funeral of Maecenas by passing 3 times around them while aspersing them with the lustral waters. And to do so was conveniently, it was necessary that he should have moved with his right hand towards them. 280. Among the Hindus, the rite of circumambulation has always been practiced. As an instance, we may cite the ceremonies which are required to be performed by a Brahmin upon the first rising from the bed in the morning. The priest, having first adored the sun while directing his face to the east, then walks towards the west by the way of the south, saying at the same time, "I follow the course of the sun," which he thus explains: as the sun in his course moves round the world by the way of the earth, so do I, following that luminary, to obtain the benefit arising from the journey round the earth by the way of the south. 281. Among the ancients, silence and secrecy was considered virtues of the highest order. The Egyptians worshipped Hippocrates, the god of secrecy, rising altars in his name, and wreathed them with garlands of flowers. Among the ancient Romans, these virtues were not less esteemed, and a distinguished Latin poet tells us, "For faithful silence always there is a sure reward." 282. An oath taken with the face towards the east was deemed more solemn and binding than when taken with the face towards any other cardinal point. Oaths were variously confirmed by lifting up the hands to heaven, by placing them on the altar or on a stone or in the hands of the person administering the oath. And a most solemn method of confirming an oath was by placing a drawn sword across the throat of the person to whom it was administered, and invoking heaven, earth, and sea to witness the ratification. 283. It was the custom to add a solemn imprecation to their oaths, either for the satisfaction of the person by whom the oath was imposed, or to lay a more inviolable obligation on themselves, lest they should at any time repent of their purpose and take contrary measures to what they then resolved upon. The person who took the oath in some of the mysterious rites was to be upon his bare knees, with a naked sword pointed to his throat. 284. The right hand has in all ages been deemed an emblem of fidelity, and the ancients worshipped the deity under the name Fides, or fidelity, which was sometimes represented by two right hands joined, and sometimes by two human figures holding each other by the right hand. 285. Valerius Maximus tells us that the ancients had a moral deity whom they called Fides. Her temple was first consecrated by Numa. Fides was a goddess of honesty and fidelity, and the writer adds, when they promised anything of old, they gave their right hand to pledge it as we do, and therefore she is represented as giving her hand, and sometimes her two hands conjoining. Charterius more fully describes this by observing that the proper residence of faith or fidelity was thought by the ancients to be in the right hand, and therefore the deity was sometimes represented by two right hands joined together, sometimes by two little images shaking each other's right hand, so that the right hand by them was held sacred, and so was symbolically made use of in a solemn manner to denote fidelity. 286. In the scriptures we find frequent references to the use of the right hand, either in confirmation of an agreement or as an emblem of truth and fidelity. Thus St. Paul says, when James, Cephas, and John, who seemed to be pillars, perceived this grace that was given unto me, they gave me and Barnabas the right hands of fellowship, that we should go into the heathen, and they into the circumcision. In Psalms it says, their right hand is a right hand of falsehood. That is to say, they lift up their right hand to swear to what is not true. 287. This lifting up the right hand was, in fact, the universal mode adopted among both Jews and pagans, and is still at the present time in taking an oath. The custom is certainly older than the days of Abram, who said to the king of Sodom, I have lifted up my hand unto the Lord, the Most High God, the possessor of heaven and earth, that I will not take anything that is thine. The mode of expression shows that the uplifting of the right hand was a familiar emblem and recognized as an evidence of truth. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment. And if you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Roses so we can expand and do much more. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you very much.